When you think of Sonic, you normally think of speed, blast processing, and rampant consumerism racing through your veins faster than the world's only hedgehog to wear sneakers. When I think of Sonic though, I don't. For a character that's mostly known for embarrassing marketing and gotta go fast, in my book he's overtaken by even the most ploddy of platform video game characters. The same kinda applies to Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Or, as the Fraki review show likes to call it, Sonic and Sonic All-Stars Racing. Seriously though, do check out his content, he does some pretty good videos. Anyway, the same kind of applies to Stars and All Racing Sonic All-Stars, a competent enough kart racer that claims to be its own thing, but by nature it's just another kart racer. It suffers the same problems as Crash Team Racing, Rayman Rush and Kotobuki Grand Prix. It's not Mario Kart. Okay, so not being Mario Kart doesn't score it down, but it is the game that seems to outdo Nintendo itself when it comes to innovations and developments. With each new installment there's a new feature that, while it might just be one, has a fundamental change on how we view and play the games. But this isn't a Mario Kart review, even though it kind of is. To prove I'm less naive to the genre than I sound, it's actually more like Diddy Kong Racing in that the main gimmick is that your vehicles have the ability to transform. Going from a car to a boat and then into a plane sounds pretty exciting, but it's the sound of it that makes it a gimmick rather than a useful game-changing feature that rocks the foundations of the genre. And whether Sega intended it for it to be a genre changer or not doesn't matter because it doesn't significantly change the gameplay at all. It just gives off the illusion that the tracks are less linear, that the combat could be significantly different, but in the end it's the worst possible result. It's just Banjo Pilot. Now I can't be too harsh on the developers when I can't necessarily do a better job and I can't think of anyone else who can. How does one make the combat better without turning it into airborne dogfights? How can you make being on water different to being on the roads, besides having a bumpier ride and worse controls? Thing is, there's so few attempts to make the tracks interesting outside of their colour schemes. Now don't hear me wrong, this game is absolutely gorgeous and it's by far one of the most visually striking games I've ever seen, but again, it's all smoke and mirrors to make you forget that it's not a very fun kart racer. It's all very well having jet planes fly over carrier zone, but unless they're carpet bombing the track and making me lose progress, I have no interest. Until sharks or catfish leap out of the ocean to wrestle my boat under the waves, I'm not interested in being waterborne either. That's not to say that the game completely lacks level hazards and perhaps having minimal dangers besides other races is your thing. The level designs are made more for being able to zoom around rather than throw your toys out of the pram, but there's one of the other contributing factors of why the game's so boring. The game's only fun when you're going fast, and that's not easy to accomplish because of the frustratingly stiff controls. You might say that they're trying to be somewhat realistic, and that's fine for a simulator, but not for a kart racer. It's the reason why I'm sea and air sick when I'm using the hovercraft and plane, because of how unresponsive the controls are. All-Stars doesn't pick up until toward the end of the race where you have to be in at least 5th place to have a chance of winning. Any further behind and you'll struggle to catch up to the other racers, making it nothing more than a slog until you finish or restart. I have to hand it to Crash Nitro Kart and especially the surprisingly awesome Looney Tunes Racing for being fast at all times without sacrificing control. At least there's a sense of balance amongst all the racers in this game, and while slower ones can catch up, they will need razor sharp accuracy to stand any chance of winning thanks to the item pickups. Speaking of, the power-ups aren't interesting either. They're mostly range projectiles, but they can ricochet, fire backwards, home in, and even reverse the controls of your opponents, but it's nothing that you haven't seen before. Oddly enough, the only time I enjoyed using weapons was in tank-busting missions and battle races. In fact, the best parts about this game are when you're not traditionally racing. Along the way to unlocking the next circuit, you'll be playing all kinds of modes besides your usual 3-lap race. These can involve staying in first place for a set number of time, drifting to keep a ticking clock frozen, checkpoint racing in all kinds of vehicles, and more. But it's about time I explained why you're doing this. In the main campaign, you'll unlock new tournaments by going along a path to the end. To progress, you have to beat different challenges, and along the way you'll come across new characters to unlock, slot machines for all kinds of goodies, and stat modifiers. This isn't quite as straightforward as it sounds though. There's 3 difficulty settings: easy, which grants 1 star when you beat the challenge, medium, which grants 2, and hard, which grants 3. These stars are then used to bypass gates which halt your progress on the menu, unlock new races, and, well, that other stuff that I mentioned before. It's a neat system that makes you want to go back and try the hardest stuff for that extra star. I always play on medium difficulty, so if I win I always get 2 stars, and they add up pretty quickly. But as you go on, further progression starts to slow down as you may need to do those harder difficulties to get more stars. The only downside to this is if you just want to race then you're out of luck because doing the other activities is mandatory to reach the next tournament. If you think that's bad, think about how I have to do the races instead of the other cool stuff. Moving on to other cool stuff, it's time to talk about the graphics and soundtrack. Mega Man and Sonic, all pilot transformed stars, is easily the best looking kart racer out there. To a fault. When you activate the rare All-Star Power-Up, for example, which only gives you a speed boost, so not much special there, it becomes blinding and fills the screen with Technicolor garbage. It doesn't help either that many levels are packed with flashing lights, incredibly detailed and well-animated objects taking up the background. The characters don't chew up the scenery so much as the scenery practically devours the players. This is a beautiful game, but what it has in style it more than lacks in substance. The music, on the other hand, I just didn't like at all. It's a whining techno-garbled remix of songs from the original games and I just can't stand that at all. The composer should have taken a look at how Sonic Generations did things then and... No, just have the music of Sonic Generations instead. Before you ram the pedal to the metal and push some scenery past the windows, it's time to grease the gears of my final thoughts. Alex Kidd and Ooh La La Racing Transformed is a decent enough game with excellent map design, loyalty to its source material, and is packed with plenty of Sonic themes for Sonic fans. But if you're into Shinobi, Golden Axe, Panzer Dragoon, Jet Set Radio and Super Monkey Ball, prepare to be disappointed, as there's a whopping one map per game. The campaign will last you approximately 6 hours, longer if you're going for every single hard mode star in the game and unlocking all the extras, but the multiplayer will add a huge amount of replay value to the experience. It'd be even quicker if the controls weren't wound up like a spring though. Seriously, that's my only big gripe with General Winter and All Wilhelmus Racing. The control makes the game feel sluggish, and it's even worse when you're on any surface but a road. It might be realistic, but it sure as hell isn't playable. Fix this, and I could easily recommend this as equally as Mario Kart, if not more. Despite my past criticisms with the game, I found it surprisingly addictive, and when you're not losing to unfair AI catch-up mechanics, you can have a great time with it. It takes an hour or two to grow on you, but with repeated play you can have a dashing good time with it. If you want a history of Sega's most notable and obscure titles, then you'll find a worthy homage in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, even if I feel more work was put into the themes than the actual gameplay. I can easily recommend it to Sega fans, but to everyone else I'd say wait for it to drop in price or for a sale. Before I go, I'd like to give another long overdue shout out to a good friend and fellow reviewer, DuckyGamerDX. I say this here because he quite likes this game, and because I don't actually have any games that I can give an appropriate shout out in. So yeah, do check out his videos, and until the next time, I'm Johnbonne, your number one source for number 2 games, and I'll see you later. Ta-ta for now.